All right, I'm going to talk to you really quick about our writing assignment, which is going to be our SLO. Now, this isn't going to be due until the last day of class, so we still have several weeks to work on this. But I'm going to go ahead and put it up and kind of go over a little bit of it, and that way you'll have this to kind of come back and refer to. All right, our prompt is going to be analyze the causes of growing opposition to slavery in the United States from 1776 to 1852. All right, I want to stop here and I want to highlight this and I want to go over this, okay? This does not mean to give me the history of slavery from 1776 to 1852. That is not what the question asks. So if you just go and look up slavery in the Wikipedia or in your textbook and you try to do a history of slavery from 1776 to 1852, you're going to get a 0 because that's not what the question asks. So let's go back and look and see what the question does ask you. Analyze the causes of growing opposition to slavery in the United States from 1776 to 1852. So you are going to focus on the groups that are opposed to slavery. Now, in that, you can do several things. You can do underlying forces where I say arguments about things such as the expansion, morality, and abolition of slavery, treatment of slaves. Okay, that kind of falls into the morality issue. I don't have documents, and we're going to talk about how you're going to use those documents in a second, for each one of those things. So that's some freedom that you have. But we have gone through several things, and will have gone through several things by the time you really have to sit down and write this, that talks about the opposition to slavery. Everything from those that do not want slavery to expand, like free soilers, okay, or those that want to see slavery done away with, like abolitionists. Okay, you need to talk about both of those things. Analyze the causes of growing opposition to slavery in the United States from 1776 to 1852. Okay, so in your outline or as you start to think about this, you have to ask yourself, what are the causes of growing opposition to slavery? One answer to that is the expansion of slavery. One answer to that is the morality of slavery. Okay, one answer to that is whatever you choose to put in there. But you need to make a cogent, an organized argument about how you're going to answer that question. And again, the question asks you to analyze the causes of growing opposition to slavery, not analyze slavery. Okay? So, with that in mind, I have given you several documents to help you in this interpretation. Okay? Ready-made sources that you can use. Every historian uses sources. Okay? And so here's a map that talks about emancipation in the North, okay, and how northern states began to emancipate their slaves. And notice most of those have been emancipated by, at the latest, New Jersey in 1804. Okay, and remember, slavery is prohibited in the Northwest Ordinance in 1787. So really, New Jersey's the last of these to have essentially emancipated slaves from the North. Why? Why is there no slavery in the North? Okay, where is going to be the major opposition to slavery going to come from? Okay, this helps set up some of these arguments that I'm looking for in your answer. Okay, document B is, and the source is here. Okay, so it tells you a little bit about the document, and this is what you'll need to cite if you use this document in your writing. Okay. So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Nathaniel Jennison, a decision upholding the abolition of slavery in Massachusetts. Okay, so here you have a court decision that upholds the freeing of the slaves in Massachusetts. Okay, another answer or another example. Okay, this is a letter about a former slave, all right, who is trying to free his family. And it talks about the costs of that, okay, and your textbook talks about that as well, okay, about the costs of slavery, the not just the physical limit, but the real economic costs of slavery. how expensive slaves were, for example. Document D is an example from the American Colonization Society. Okay. If you don't know what that is, you probably ought to look it up. We will talk about it, but it gives you an idea. Okay. And so William Lloyd Garrison, document E, who is one of the leading abolitionists. Okay, so you can probably guess what this is going to be about. It's going to be about the abolition of slavery and really the abolitionist movement. The abolitionist movement is very different from things like the free soil movement. Okay, so make sure that you know the difference between the free soil movement, things like popular sovereignty that we'll talk about, and the abolitionist movement. The abolitionist movement has one cause and one cause only. Okay, Angela Grimke. Okay, two things here. We have a woman and an abolitionist who is trying to get Southern women to understand the evils of slavery. Frederick Douglass, who you all should know. Okay, Frederick Douglass becomes an abolitionist, of course, because he was a former slave. So here he talks about really some of the evils of slavery, things that the South did not want most people to know about, because the South tried to cultivate this issue or this idea of the positive good, that slaves were out there. If they were not out there, they wouldn't have any money. They wouldn't be able to cope. They wouldn't have a place to stay. Okay, that slavery actually gives them a place to work, gives them, and of course that's utterly untrue. And things like this are going to help to expose that. David Wilmot's speech before Congress. Okay, so there is Wilmot's speech there. Okay, here is a poster, okay, from a Boston minister and abolitionist, okay, warning the free slave population of Boston, okay, to be careful about kidnappers and slave catchers. Slaves were very expensive, and of course, one of the things that could happen is slaves that were sent out, or slave catchers that were sent out because of the Fugitive Slave Act, could kidnap people and bring them back to the South and put them into slavery. Okay, and even though that's totally illegal, but it certainly could happen, especially because of the costs of slaves. These dates are important. Okay, make sure that as you are kind of going through this, that you understand the things that are going on in America around these dates as well. Okay, the Uncle Tom's Cabin, published in 1852. Okay, it's another example of those of a source that begins to shed light on the way slaves were treated in the South. Uncle Tom's Cabin becomes one of the biggest selling books in the history of America. So make sure that you understand that. And then finally, document K refers to the Potawatomi Massacre. This happens during during Bloody Kansas. And so I have a testimony here. So it's an important thing. I don't give you, there's not a whole lot of clues here, but if you know what the Potawatomi Massacre is, you'll begin to figure it out. And that will be an important document as well. All right, here's what the assignment is going to be. Okay, following question, or the question, the prompt, okay, requires you to construct a coherent essay that integrates your interpretation of the documents above, your textbook, and your knowledge of the period referred to in the question. High scores will be earned only by essays that both cite key pieces of evidence from the documents and draw on outside knowledge of the period. All right, your essay must be 1,200 words in length. That's about 2.5 pages, typed, double-spaced, okay? But 1,200 words in length, be typed and double-spaced. Use 12-point Times New Roman font. Have a title page that does not count in your pages or your word count. Have a works cited page that does not count in your pages or word count, that lists the document and sources you used in writing your paper. If you cite them, if you use them in your paper, then you must have them in your works cited page. Okay, you can use your textbook as one of your sources, but it must be cited correctly and appear on your works cited page. Okay, you must use, interpret, and incorporate at least 8 of the sources provided into your essay. Your textbook can count as one of those sources. Okay, they must be interpreted correctly. They must be cited correctly. They must support a part of your argument. No other sources, especially the Wikipedia, can be used to satisfy this requirement. Okay. Also, you can't just quote from them. Okay. And I will talk a little bit more in class about how you successfully incorporate documents into your argument. But you cannot just quote them willy-nilly and not use them to support your argument. Whatever you're using that document for, it must be supporting that argument. Okay. And then finally, must be free of plagiarism. Any example of plagiarism will result in you earning a 0 on this assignment. So I'm going to put this up. We're going to start to kind of look at it, and we'll continue to talk about it over the next 2 weeks in class. Okay. So it's just, I'm putting it up here so you can start getting it on your mind. But this is going to be our SLO. It counts a massive portion of your writing grade. It is worth as much as an exam. So doing it incorrectly, plagiarizing and getting a 0 will doom you. Okay. So I cannot emphasize how important this is. So now is the time to start thinking about it. Now is the time to start reading in your textbook about the things that are going to lead to the opposition to slavery. Remember, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make sure that you understand what I'm telling you here. That the question does not ask you to discuss slavery. The question asks you to analyze the causes of opposition to slavery. And so this is what you're looking for. And this is what you're going to hang your hat on. When you make out your outline, every portion of your outline should be one of the things that supports this idea of growing opposition to slavery. It should be the central part of your argument. It should be the central part of your thesis. It should be the thing that organizes your essay. Okay? All right. I'm going to put this up in Canvas for you guys to look at, and then we'll continue to talk about it over the next couple of weeks.